All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first quarter 2018 Dash Core Group conference call. I'm Ryan Taylor, CEO of Dash Core Group, Inc., and I'll be the main moderator for today's call. This call is being recorded and will be distributed on Dash's YouTube channel shortly. I'm joined on the call by several key members of Dash Core Group: Alex Chopin, Director of Strategy; Nathan Marley, Deputy CTO; Bradley Zastrow, Director of Global Business Development; Fernando Gutierrez, Chief Marketing Officer; Kelly Kopschwetz, Director of Human Resources; Robert Wyko, Chief Operations Officer; and Glenn Austin, our new Chief Financial Officer. Next slide. Before we begin, we'll share some additional information about the call format. All viewers are on mute. If you have questions or comments, you can enter them in the chat below. We'll first share a set of prepared remarks and accompanying slides, followed by a question and answer session. Questions should be submitted in the chat window. We'll answer as many questions as we can from those submitted ahead of time and those submitted in the chat. And other than the time limit of the call, we won't be restricting the number of questions. Keep in mind that this call is intended as an update on the core team's overall strategy and operations, so questions should ideally reflect that intent. Next slide. So why are we here? Our goal for the call is to provide a window for the community into the Dash Core Group operations and development, and reviewing performance data on the Dash network itself from the last quarter. We'd also like to share our latest observations on the market and our place within it and how we plan to compete. And of course, we want to answer as many questions as we can from the community. So for today's agenda, the entire team has spent a lot of time reflecting and aligning in much greater detail on our strategy. And that starts with a deeper understanding of our goals and values. We would like to take this opportunity to share that with the community. We've also refined our strategy, which will continue to evolve as we test business approaches, measure results, and evaluate what's working. We'll then walk you through what's happening and what is next within each of the functions represented on the call. Glenn will also share details on the core team's financials, including details on our proposal income, expenses, and currency losses during the quarter, as well as a detailed balance sheet. Finally, I'll share a review of our key performance indicators for the quarter and year-on-year growth before we get into the Q&A. The first quarter was a challenging one for the entire crypto market, which fell about 57%, but Dash was particularly affected, losing about 2/3 of its market cap during the quarter. This represented the first quarterly loss since Q4 2016. Not surprisingly, volatility also increased during the quarter, both for the industry broadly and for Dash. Despite all the valuation challenges, there were continued signs of progress towards our goals. Year-on-year growth remained strong, triple digits across a range of key metrics. We continued to add new exchanges and trading pairs during the quarter as well. We now boast over 100 trading pairs on various exchanges that are consistently active, and trading volumes remain near record highs despite the price declines. We're also seeing tentative signs of real-world adoption. Venezuela continues to experience incredible growth, overtaking Russia and China to now become our second most active location for Dash website traffic, and where a concentrated and rapidly growing community of merchants and users is taking hold. Dash was well positioned in the country with brokerage services already in place, developed in that market dating back to relationships we first established in 2016. We also have run several successful co-marketing campaigns and promotions that have resulted in capturing a greater share of payment volumes on some of the merchants we've recently added to the network. And that share seems to continue after promotion periods end. And this implies that once consumers try Dash, they continue to use it for their next transaction on these services. We're also seeing behavior changes on the transactions traversing the Dash network. Usually we see a very strong correlation between market cap and the number of transactions. This quarter, the number of transactions were essentially flat, and the number of active addresses actually increased at the same time that the transaction volume dropped. This misalignment of growing activity with lower volume is striking, but it is consistent with a shift towards greater real-world use. Essentially, we saw the number of low-value transactions increase while the number of large transfers declined. Interestingly, the least active day of the quarter had over 6,200 transactions, which is significantly higher than the 4,400 we recorded on our slowest day in the fourth quarter. This seems to lend further evidence that Dash is experiencing greater usage for transactions compared with speculative trading activity. So, as we discussed with you last quarter, it's important that we maintain a clear organization-wide understanding of our goal and what Dash can address in the market. We continue refining this message and the business strategy aligned to the goal. Dash addresses real needs in the market. And these simple phrases on this slide distill the value that we bring to the market. Payments take too long and cost too much. Dash is digital cash with instant transaction and micro fees anytime, anywhere. And we improve financial freedom by giving people a better way to pay and get paid. Next slide. In most geographies today, payments take too long and cost too much. Money networks can take 3 to 5 days to settle, and fees represent a significant cost to consumers and merchants. But not all markets are the same. Some people must wait longer or pay more. And we know that markets experiencing the most pain or who aren't able to transact at all are also the most likely to consider alternatives like Dash. Ultimately, everyone deserves better. Underpinning our strategy is technology to deliver a better payment network. But everything we build is driven by a set of values. Next slide. We prioritize financial freedom and access. These values further differentiate Dash from centralized networks. Implementing a fast and cheap payment network is exponentially more difficult in a decentralized manner, but these values have universal appeal, and we feel strongly that these ideals will allow Dash to capture a significant share of the payments market. Next slide. We don't consider the cryptocurrency space to be our long-term competition. We are competing with both fiat cash and electronic money networks more broadly. A scan of the typical time and cost of transacting with legacy systems makes it very clear that Dash is well positioned to outcompete these markets over time. Next slide. Dash's growing ecosystem of services is allowing individuals and businesses to use the network for a wider variety of needs. And our channel partners are helping to expand acceptance into more locations. Our third-party integrators like GoCoin and BlockCypher have introduced Dash to many new use cases, including cheapair.com for travel and Pico for phone top-ups globally. For now, price volatility remains high and is often the largest concern for businesses and individuals. The volatility of our network and the cryptocurrency space as a whole realistically restricts its use. Storing value in Dash may only be a better option for people in destabilized economies or where regular accounts are not accessible. For this reason, many businesses are best served by auto-converting to fiat at the time that they receive payments. In an environment of volatility, Dash does offer advantages over other cryptocurrencies because of its transaction speed, which shortens the duration of volatility risk for parties to the transaction. Next slide. One of the main issues we aim to address is ease of use. Getting and using Dash needs to be as simple as possible if we expect to compete with the legacy financial system. Each step of the process today requires a great deal of learning and research. So we're focusing on the pain points and making the entire system end-to-end easier for the consumer to use. Next slide. And evolution is our product strategy to optimize that user experience for both individuals and businesses. There are many components to evolution. During the quarter, we began publishing monthly demos of the back-end functionality associated with evolution now that provisional patents are filed. These demos will allow the community to track our progress and better understand what is happening on the back end of these systems. This slide is an illustration of the main objectives for evolution and a brief description of the products that will address these goals. The DashPay app is a user wallet that will enable a new user experience with cryptocurrencies that delivers a more intuitive user interface, the ability to create contact lists and store the contacts in the network itself, transact via usernames, and buy and sell Dash within the app through connected services. The Decentralization Application Protocol Interface, or DAPI, and the associated software development kits allow businesses to more easily integrate Dash into their systems in a highly customizable manner. Combined with other back-end capabilities like Dash Drive, businesses will be able to build applications that leverage the Dash network to host application data. We'll share more information on development progress a bit later. And so with that, we'll kick off the area-specific updates from the rest of the leadership team, and we'll start with an update from Alex Chopin on strategy.
Hello. So for management this quarter, we wanted to create a common operating picture and work together better as a team. So we set up management meetings this quarter, and we're running those and getting better. And we also have weekly developer meetings that use the same format. This coming quarter, we plan to iterate on that format. In terms of our overall strategy, we sort of refined our value proposition on what and why is Dash, which you saw here in the quarterly, and we'll update that each quarterly. We now need to move to articulating our broader business development strategy and identify campaigns in economies and industries that we want to go after, and develop integrated marketing and business plans. And so this quarter, we plan to refine the business development strategy. On research on the technical side with ASU, this quarter we plan to investigate the scalability of the network. They built some models and ran some simulations on different propagation protocols like compact blocks and XThin. They're preparing the research for publication right now, and that will be shared publicly. And this quarter, we will explore some new models on different propagation protocols. On the business side with ASU Pete Carey Business School, we want to see if we can better understand cryptocurrencies in the market. And so we're working with the business school to prepare a proposal for a cryptocurrency and blockchain certificate and submit that proposal. If funded, then this quarter we will work with ASU on developing that curriculum for 5 to 6 courses. On the product side, we wanted to start thinking at Dash more in terms of building user products. So we hired a product manager. We wanted to start building the product management process and artifacts and sort of define our users and their problems into how we prioritize features. So we hired a product manager. We're working on finalizing the MVP for evolution, and this quarter we'll work on nailing down the roadmap. We'll also start doing some partner feedback surveys. We'll work on a website refresh, which Fernando will talk about, and we'll begin mapping out customer journeys. We need to know better how the business is doing from a metrics perspective, and we need better data to make better business decisions. So we've been working on determining requirements for what we need to know. We're in the process of hiring a business intelligence manager. We're exploring some channel partner data with a third party that manages our API. And internally, we've done some high-level outlines of how we'd redo the quarterly metrics. We've done some modeling analysis of business case studies. In this quarter, we hope to hire the business intelligence manager, get some better data, and give better data to the community. For internal transparency, we've been updating Dash Core Group on our internal plans and activities as an output of the management meeting. We will continue to do that. And for external transparency, we're doing the same, sharing what's going on at Dash Core Group meetings, and we will continue to do that. That's all that I have.
Thanks, Alex. For the software development area, we've broken it down into the key categories this time. And so for people, we plan to hire some new people, and we did so. We currently have an entire mobile team. We have, which consists of 6 people, as well as a new designer and a couple more developers. And we have a technical writer who's helping us prepare the docs. He helped a lot with the dips. For next quarter, we plan to hire more people to help us manage the product and more developers to help us build the product. For core, 12.3 is what we plan to release. That includes compact blocks. It includes named DevNets, which are a big feature, as well as release the dips. We're still planning and preparing for the release of 12.3. We expect that to be released within a couple of weeks. The QA process is still ongoing with that. And we did release 3 dips last week. Next quarter, we plan to release 12.4. That is going to include the deterministic masternode lists, which are a big feature, and that comes from the dips that we just released last week. As far as Dash Drive, we plan to get the storage sync process fleshed out more and communicating with the master nodes to interface with core. We're doing that now, and we have a solid integration test environment set up for that, so we can test it very well. And we're working on the DAP schema, which we're calling Dash Schema, and that's kind of a that's the data contract piece that people keep talking about. That's what that is the Dash Schema, and we're working on a new version of that. For DAPI, we're doing a lot of research this quarter, specifically with quorums, aggregate signatures for creating data quorums among master nodes, as well as SPV solutions for verifying state transitions. Our proof of concepts are mostly complete on that, and we've begun implementation on some of the quorum signature flow. Quorum data flow research is still ongoing, and so we plan to have the data flow and signature flow all implemented by next quarter. As far as the mobile team, we did transition Copay to the mobile team, as I explained in the last quarterly call. And we've got some features on the Android wallet that we've released, as well as a Dash Control app, which is a helpful app for master nodes and anyone who's in the community, really, to get news and updates, things like that. More details on that later. As far as Copay, we're nearly ready to release. There's still some issues with the QA process, and so we plan to address those and get Copay released in the next quarter. We're continuing integrations on the Android and iOS wallets, both with Wall of Coins as well as Uphold. and we're going to continue further work on the wallets in the next quarter. As far as the UX and web build teams, we plan to work on the contacts list demo application, and we've done that. This quarter, we've released those demos. We decided to record those internal demos and release those to the community. Community seemed pretty pleased by that. And we plan to do further demos and work on improving our designs for the next quarter. That's all I have.
Hi everyone. I'm Brad Zestro with the business development, and I think for the really three key things, just kind of wanted to talk you guys through just what we're doing on the team level, what we're doing in integrations, and then what we're also doing from an account management point of view. On the team, we were really looking at starting to actually build out that team, starting first with the US and Canada region and then moving into Latin America. Pleased to say that we do, as some of you guys have already met him as well. Omar Hamwi was the first member to join our team as the US-Canada regional manager. And we actually also now have the preferred candidate for our Latin America regional manager verbally accepting the offer. So we're now kind of just working through the detail with him, and we'll be pleased to officially announce him hopefully shortly. What we're really planning to do next kind of on that team front is focus a little bit more on the kind of internal side and hire a CRM manager. We get into it a little bit later here, but we have implemented a CRM tool, which is HubSpot. And for some of you that may be in the European Union know that there's been some recent privacy changes around the GDPR specifically. And so CRM manager will be very important, not only to ensure that we're focused on those type of regulatory requirements, but then also as well managing our pipeline effectively and identifying where the opportunities lie. Next, we'll really be looking at hiring in Asia Pacific, and then also as one thing that we are looking at as well is now really exploring elements around a country manager strategy. And I think what kind of Ryan was saying earlier around seeing adoption in certain markets accelerate faster than maybe other areas around the globe. We're really taking a look at how we can help support some of those markets more specifically through a country manager. On the integration side, again, I think it's probably pretty standard every quarter. The plan is to integrate new partners, and pleased to say that within the first quarter, there's been roughly about 15 additional partners that have come on board. I think 3 of them that are kind of exciting are listed there. Abra, which is really a kind of a cryptocurrency investment app. They're actually backed by American Express as well, which is kind of funny seeing that's where my history comes from. But more serious, they are a fiat on and off ramp, and they also have a remittance solution with the Philippines and a network of tellers in that market. Bitwage as well, for those that don't know, is really exciting through Uphold. And Bitwage now able to actually pay firms are now actually able to pay salaries with Dash. So again, looking at the entire ecosystem and all the parts, that plays a key role. And then also Morph Token, which I think is maybe one way to describe that is kind of a shapeshift, accelerated. And what it allows you to do is a kind of a portfolio investment allocation into various cryptos. So we're pleased to welcome those partners to the Dash family, as well as the additional ones there. And again, really for the next quarter as well, we'll be continuing that onboarding of new partners. But more importantly, we've also already started working on integration documentation. We'll be working closely with Fernando and the team as to where the best home is for this, kind of on our website and our wikis. But one of the things that we're doing is just kind of standardizing some of that and making it easier, as I mentioned in kind of the earlier or our first quarterly together, make that easy for merchants in that onboard process and help give them the information that they need as well. On the account management side, really kind of what we're planning and what we've done is around starting to collect some of that partner feedback and getting some tools in place. And so, as I mentioned, the CRM being kind of one of probably the first and probably most key tool from a business development point of view to really get implemented. What we're doing as well is we've already set up reoccurring account management meetings with our partners. So that'll be important to keep closely linked with our larger partners and to really, I guess, work together and understand as far as each other's strategic objectives throughout the year, how we can support that, whether through additional marketing or other opportunities as well. The multi-partner network effect that I refer to here is really about how, and I mentioned it before as well, about how we can really build larger partnerships, the synergy of 1 + 1 = 3, by linking together multiple partners into single campaigns, and ultimately with the focus of kind of providing users with the 3 key pillars, I guess, to the Dash ecosystem, which is a method to acquire, a method to store, spend Dash. Moving forward into the second quarter, it's really continuing to build those strategies and to start seeing some of those multi-partner strategies being implemented. Also working very closely with Alex with strategy and Fernando in the marketing side, ensuring that kind of all of us together are kind of marching to the same, or to the beat of the same drum, as it were, and are aligned kind of on where our focus is, and again, some of the timings of what we're planning to do. And then, as I mentioned, around also some of that documentation, really also building and mapping out some of the internal as well as external business processes. So this is everything from kind of simple internal ones to also maybe more external facing ones, such as the escrow process. And that's it from business development.
Thank you. To start with the marketing update, first talking about people, the idea was I assumed the position sometime in January, but I had been doing some of the functions before, so I had controlled most of the quarter. The idea was to onboard a couple of marketing managers during the quarter. This has not been possible due to it taking longer than expected, and also other recruitment processes taking some priority, which are more urgent. But the process is already going on. We have many interviews already done, some ongoing. Hopefully in the next few weeks, we will be onboarding these 2 new marketing managers and increasing our bandwidth a lot. In terms of conferences, we already have a conferences calendar, and we are acting in a more deliberate way than in the past. In Q1, we attended 4 conferences, 1 in the US, 2 in Europe, 1 in Europe and 2 in Asia, and we developed this calendar for the next quarters. In the short term, we will make this calendar easily available for the community, so we can start seeing it in advance in an easier way than now. We already have 7 events planned, 5 conferences, and a couple business development partners events that we have already attended. Also, we've done a couple of conferences during the month of April. And for the next couple of months of the quarter, we're going to be in Consensus in New York, Money 2020 in Amsterdam, and MoneyConf in Dublin. And also in this quarter, we are going to start preparing the second DAS conference, probably in the US in September, October, like we did last year in London. There's still no details, but we for sure hope to update everyone during this quarter on this. As for branding, as most of people in this call will know, we were in the process of getting a new visual identity. It's been a bit more convoluted even than expected. We introduced a second design agency in the process because we thought it was good for the network. And then because of this 2-party and 2 design votes, we decided to do a new vote this month. So we had everything confirmed, and we built consensus in the community because not everyone agreed with how the process had been done. Now we have that passed. Everyone is behind the new image. The logos are already finished. The style guide is drafted already, and we expect the final version to be ready late next week. We'll publish everything so everyone can start rebranding, although some people have already branded with the assets that are already available in the forums from the different phases of voting we've conducted. This will affect also the website, which we are working in. We're going to do 2 parallel projects. One of them is a quick refresh and uplift in terms of content and structure, and we will also, of course, introduce the new branding. The vendor for that is already selected. We've kicked off the project, and we expect it to take around 6 to 8 weeks. In parallel, we are evaluating deeper changes in the website and talking with different vendors to help us in this process. In terms of advertising, we're doing our first campaign. We do ads for 2 reasons. First, to really measure how much we can do with ads. We can't compete on a global basis with global brands, but maybe we can support certain actions that are happening around the community in certain parts of the world. And also we get some valuable information from those campaigns. And like many financial businesses, we don't have first-party data of our users. This is the data you get directly from your users. We have the blockchain, but that's all we have. We don't require signups or users to give us any data. So with third-party data like ads, you can get some information of your users or potential users that can be valuable to fine-tune other marketing channels. And this campaign we are running is being seen in the UK, Spain, and Venezuela. The main goal is to increase brand awareness over there, because that's the first problem we have detected in the crypto space, that not enough people are aware of Dash. Then we need them to consider Dash and think about Dash, and then to use it. But you can't get people to use Dash if they know nothing about you or they don't think about you. So preliminary results are pretty good. We also have very good results of secondary goals, like increasing web traffic. In the countries where this campaign is running, we're seeing a huge increase in web traffic. The campaign is scheduled to finish mid of May. After that, we'll do deep analysis. We'll publish with all the conclusions, and we'll see where we go from there. In terms of PR, we want to increase media attention. We believe Dash doesn't get enough attention for the value it brings to the crypto space. We don't have a really good way to measure this. We've started measuring the number of mentions we get. In Q1, we got 22,000 mentions in press, but we don't have a good number to compare from previous quarters. It's growing, but we are not satisfied with this. We are exploring different measures we can take with our PR agency to increase the scope of the work, maybe engaging regional partners. We also have purchase a subscription to a new service that will let us analyze more in depth what's happening in the media with Crypto Dash. We're going to be measuring other projects, what they are doing, how we compare to them, how we evolve in terms of notoriety in comparison with others, because everything in this market goes, it's very correlated, but we need to reduce the distance in notoriety we have with bigger projects like Ethereum and Bitcoin. So that's what we need to measure, not the absolute number of mentions. And once we have all this ready, we'll be working the marketing plan. That it's a bit delayed because of the lack of resources, and also because we are working on aligning different areas of the project. As Bradley has said, we're working a lot together, and also with Alex Chopin, so we can define where and how we need to be pushing our activities, and with that we'll be able to build a proper business plan during this quarter. And that's all I had.
Okay, the HR topics. First is recruitment. We have implemented an ATS, or an applicant tracking system. We are utilizing the Hire Google system, which is part of our Google Gmail suite. This system allows managers to more easily manage the candidates that are coming into the system to apply for roles, arrange their own interviews, and streamline the recruiting activities. We are hoping that this system will allow us to speed up the recruitment activities and allow us to hire people at a speedier results, which will help Fernando and some of the other hiring managers to fill their positions more rapidly and take care of some of the needs on that. So the ATS is an important rollout that we've completed. We're currently getting more of the jobs into the ATS so that they are visible and candidates can actively apply to them. We are continuing to work on training and making it available and more effective, but it is actively rolled out at this stage. Another large project we have is the PEO. This is a professional employment organization. Our goal has been to onboard a portion of the staff to employment status. Because we have employee or staff members who are spread out across the world, we are not able to employ them in the standard sense. We can't set up a business in 20 different countries. It's not practical for Dash to do. So we're leveraging the option of a professional employment organization. They act as the employer. They hold the tax records and all of the requirements as the employer. They hold the contracts with the staff members and pay the taxes on our behalf. So it removes the burden on Dash to set up a lot of the formalities. So this is a significant win for us and a good partnership. It also lessens a lot of the cost burdens that would be placed on Dash for hiring local accountants and local resources. This will be done for key staff members only, and it is being rolled out in multiple phases, starting with the board and then moving down through management to key staff members. So we are phasing this in order to be conservative with budget resources. Currently, it has been rolled out to the board members and is now actively being rolled out through the management and key staff members. So we're currently in phase 2, and we will be moving to phase 3 in July and August. It does affect the US and international levels. And as noted, the biggest benefit is for cost management. We cannot physically open operations in all of the places we have staff members, and we are not looking to limit those locations. We want to be, we want to be worldwide. We want to be able to have staff everywhere, and this allows us to do that without having to add more infrastructure, which would be a burden to the network. Additionally, it allows us to offer benefits and be statutory, compliance that we wouldn't be able to do if we just had one person. We're trying to do it on our own. This allows us to be competitive in the marketplace, particularly with some of our key employees that we really rely on from a knowledge perspective. We can offer them the benefits that they would be able to go out and get from other employers. So it allows us to be competitive. So this is a huge advantage for Dash to be able to roll this out. And we found 2 good partners, an international PEO and a US domestic PEO, who we're excited to be able to roll this out with. We are currently working on a salary project. We've recognized that when it comes to salaries, the blockchain knowledge is quite specific, and being able to find candidates that already have knowledge of the blockchain space is quite difficult, and they come at a premium. When we go out and use salary surveys, which are quite common in HR, they do not include that premium for blockchain. So we've done quite a bit of research to understand what that knowledge is worth on the salary side. We've looked at over 700 roles that are current on the marketplace to try and come up with a way to address that blockchain knowledge. And we've come up with a program for rolling out a salary schedule and levels, particularly among tech, in order to reward our employees who have the blockchain knowledge, pay them appropriately for this industry that is, just developing, so that they're getting a competitive salary. Right now, we have quite a few people who are being paid lower than what they could get elsewhere. And in order to ensure that we are not losing team members to alternative employment options, we want to make sure that we're offering competitive salaries. So this research project and then rolling out the salaries will be a huge help in ensuring that we retain the talent we have. So we've done the research, we have drafted a plan, and we're prepared to go to the board to review that and gain approval. We are also working on a formal retention bonus plan. This has been put together and presented to the board. We're not prepared to roll this out until the PEO is rolled out, because it is part of the contracts update that would go out with the PEO. The retention plan looks similar to a stock plan in that the employees get a phased rollout of their bonus. So if they would get a portion of the bonus 1 year, another third after their second year, and another third after the third year. The idea being that we believe Dash is going to increase in value year over year, and this bonus will, like Dash, increase in value significantly, and that will really help retain staff members as they have a vested interest in the company. Their assets are going up as the Dash is going up, and that really does help to retain staff as they see value in Dash and they're attached to the company. So we're excited for that plan to roll out. On the HR front, we are rolling out, it's called an HRIS system. This is a human resource information system, and it's really a housing database for all of the employee, staff, consultant, and international employee information. That way employees can manage their own data. The consultants can manage their hours and get paid more easily, and managers can see all their employees in one place and make it more effective. We are going to be leveraging the USPEO's platform because it has been built for international and consultants as well. And it'll help managers not have to log on to multiple platforms. So that will help with a streamlined approach. So there aren't multiple systems being implemented, but this will speed up payments. It'll allow finance to get information from one system instead of going to 3 or 4 systems. So it'll be a significant process improvement to have that rolled out. From the legal side, we've been focusing significantly on the European Union's rollout of GDPR. This is their new privacy rules that go out in a couple of weeks here in May. That's when they become effective. This really focuses on the individual's right to their own information and has some overarching policies that affect different elements of a business. So it affects HR and finance quite significantly. Website consent language is affected as well. Contracts have to have very specific language. So I'm working with all the different division heads to ensure that we have the right compliance in place. For the most part, we use a lot of vendors and for software and for services, and those vendors have already provided us with their compliance in GDPR. So for the most part, we're satisfied with our compliance from that aspect. There are some functions, however, that we're still working on from our internal controls, and we will continue to work on that to make sure that our European activities are covered and that we're doing our due diligence to ensure that we're compliant with the European Union standards for privacy.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Więcko. During the first quarter this year, a new structure of Dashcore Group was announced, and I have a pleasure to serve as operations officer in this structure. And at the same time, the new operations team has been created, and together with my teammates, we are supporting other parts of the company with project management, quality assurance, and infrastructure services. I also got a mission to drive legal operations of the company and create service desk for our customers and partners. And to meet these expectations, operations team needs to be expanded. In the first quarter, we have managed to hire 2 new QA engineers and also project portfolio managers. And this process is going to be continued. In the project management area, the major focus is on agile adoption in our delivery. All project managers are engaged in the process, and the project itself is being driven by Baloo. We have hired experienced external consulting company Agile Lab to help us go through this complex process. And so far, we have managed to define high-level team structure, roles, and responsibilities within this new setup, and we are finalizing definition of our MVP roadmap. Another major area for project managers are internal company processes and policies, and the team compiled a list of required processes and began the documentation of them. You can expect continuation of this in Q2. As mentioned previously, we have hired project portfolio manager, Alexander Hirsch. and his role is to work on portfolio reporting, and together with Liz, he and they together should work on improvements of communication of our product development. Our company in March filed a provisional patent relating to upcoming evolution platform, and we have filed the patent for purely defensive protection of the technology, and we have no monetization plans for this patent. The patent itself is not public yet. It will become publicly available within 18 months after a non-provisional patent is being filed. We have made a large step forward by hiring 2 new quality engineers, and thanks to this, all major development projects have now their quality engineers assigned, and with support of Kira, we are going to establish fully functional service team this quarter in order to provide professional testing service to the entire organization. And similarly, I work with Pablo on setup and launch of our service desk. Our customers and partners deserve professional service. Therefore, we are working on definition of required services, SLAs, and necessary resources to launch service desk later this year. For the current quarter, we are planning a test run of this service in order to properly estimate necessary resources. And last but not least, infrastructure. Our team works continuously and then supports the entire company, administrating our cloud infrastructure as well as development and testing environments. And the team is also being deeply engaged in copy development. Sharif and his teammates work to secure network and our instances. Therefore, they are evaluating number of tools at the moment, planning to conduct security assessment of our infrastructure and want to implement monitoring tools among all of the operating instances. The last weeks, we have started also exploring a concept of internal service desk or ticketing tool to automate this and standardize some internal processes, and this work is strictly connected to definition of company processes and will be continued next quarter. Thank you very much. With this, and I hand over to Glenn.
Great, thank you, Robert. Hi, this is Glenn Austin, CFO of Dash Core Group. Let me provide a brief update on current initiatives in the finance organization. I was hired as CFO at the end of March and spent some time with members of the senior leadership team getting up to speed, including a 1-week stay in Arizona where I was trained by Ryan. The next step for the finance organization is building out the team. Initially, the plan is to add 1 senior accountant over the next 2 to 3 months. Moving on to our financial relationships. We have had issues with banking partners in the past that have caused delays in payments or restricted our payments to specific geography. At times, we would need extensive approvals before we could send a payment to a supplier. Therefore, we really need a more diverse set of banking relationships to ensure redundancy. As a result, we're doing extensive research on banking relationships. We're looking to partner with financial institutions that understand our space, understand what our requirements are, and can provide solutions to our needs. As a result of that due diligence, in Q1 2018, we established an account with a broker-dealer, which gives us another conduit through which we can conduct crypto to fiat conversions. Going forward, we plan on establishing an additional bank account to continue diversifying our banking relationships. Moving on to the budget. In Q1 2018, we achieved all of our goals in terms of covering our operating costs, maintaining a reserve buffer, and maintaining a healthy balance between the core team and community proposals. Dash Core Group proposals represented only 15% of total Dash distributed from the Treasury. Our plans in Q2 2018 are threefold: to improve budget planning transparency, look into increasing reserves, and to be mindful of the amount Dash Core Group requests from the network in funding relative to the community. In terms of improving budget planning, Finance will publish on a quarterly basis our draft plans regarding future funding needs. Of course, these plans will be subject to change depending on a variety of factors, such as new opportunities, strategy pivots, or rapid change in the price of Dash. However, this budget plan will be valuable in terms of providing a sense how much funding Dash Core Group will request in the near future. In terms of the buffer reserve, we are now considering what size reserve and in what form, be it Dash or fiat, would be most appropriate. And finally, Dash Core Group wants to always make sure that there are opportunities for the community at large to submit proposals to the network and that we aren't crowding out funding for great ideas with our proposal. In terms of invoices, we streamlined invoice processing and are now looking at providing financial incentives to our suppliers to accept Dash. For escrows and fiat guarantees, we have started to provide them, but we are currently determining both short-term and long-term solutions for both offers. We will be announcing an updated escrow and fiat guarantee policy shortly. As far as reporting goes, we're working with an accounting firm to file our taxes. Even though over the long run our tax rate is expected to be zero, in the short term we have to pay taxes on the assets on our balance sheet. Since our fiscal year end is June 30th, we will owe taxes on any assets that are held on our balance sheet at the end of that day. Therefore, we want to optimize our tax strategy by drawing down our balance sheet throughout the second quarter. This will save the network money in terms of minimizing the amount of taxes that are due on both the federal and the state level. The implications of pursuing this strategy is that Dash Core Group will submit fewer proposals in May and June. However, in July, we will be submitting a larger amount of proposals to recuperate our balance sheet buffer. The exact proposals we forecast we will request in May, June, and July will be posted on the Dash forum next week. The final implication of our tax strategy is that at some point, I think most likely in the August payment cycle, Dash Core Group will need to put a separate proposal to the network to fund our payment of tax. Next slide, please. Moving on to our financials, we will start with the income statement. Note, we conduct all our accounting in USD to provide a stable picture of our financials. Also, all the reported numbers are in thousands. The core team received a total of $2.7 million in payments from Dash's proposal system over the first quarter of 2018. During that period, the core team only submitted 4 proposals to the network for funding related to marketing and advertising, professional recruiting, and core team salary. Going forward, absent a significant recovery in the price of Dash, we expect to request funding from the network more frequently. Moving on to the expense side. Although expenses exceeded the fund we received from the Dash network by about $1.1 million, we benefited from the buffer we had in place exactly to counter any price volatility in Dash. The first quarter of 2018 was very volatile, with the price of Dash falling 68% from December 31st, 2017 through March 31st, 2018. This sharp decline in price impacted our net income as we recognized a significant loss in Q1 2018. Specifically, we experienced a loss of $6.3 million in Q1, which is reflected in the exchange gain or loss line on the income statement. Our largest expense at $1.3 million in Q1 was for the promotional budget line. This budget line includes business development and conference expenses. These line items have been the largest expense for the core group since the second quarter of last year, as the mix of spending continues to shift towards direct investments in our ecosystem. The primary costs include integration with business partners, a grant program run in conjunction with BlockCypher that targets new merchants, and conferences that are attended by core staff throughout the year. Our second largest expense at almost $1 million was for personnel. This line item includes the entire team of developers and technical staff, translators, and business and support functions. Our run rate exiting Q1 was $315,000 per month, and we expect it to increase in the near future due to the factors Kelly discussed in the human resources section, specifically the PEO program, the retention program, and the salary increase program. The PEO program will add between $85,000 to $100,000 in cost per month. We are still finalizing the structure and cost of the salary increases and the retention. Finally, another last expense in the quarter is related to legal and professional services. Expenses incurred in this line item relate to the drafting of legal contracts and finalizing the legal structure of Dash Core Group, including setting up a revocable trust. Also included are some fees related to our public relations services, conference services, and HR recruiting support. The biggest impact on our net income was the aforementioned $6.3 million loss related to the decline in the price of Dash. Overall, net income was negative $7.4 million for the quarter, our first quarterly loss since 2016. Next slide, please. Moving to the balance sheet, our assets contracted to $2.7 million from over $10 million as of the end of 2017, or 74% quarter over quarter. The contraction in the balance sheet is due to both currency losses as well as continued spending. We expect our balance sheet to further contract this quarter and hit a low at the end of the second quarter 2018 as we look to optimize our tax strategy, as previously discussed. With the current price of Dash at approximately $485, we remain well capitalized. A number of balance sheet items, including external contractors, infrastructure, and property lease, will not need further funding for the foreseeable future. That concludes the finance update. Next, Ryan will cover our metrics.
All right, thank you, Glenn. So in terms of Dash's financial KPIs, Dash's market cap dropped significantly in Q1. So specifically, there were nearly 8 million coins in existence at the end of Q1, which was up about 10.9% from the previous year. Our price fell about 68% from the previous quarter, but remained up 329% year on year, finishing the quarter at about $320. Dash's market cap fell about 67% quarter on quarter, but that also was up about 376% year on year. And price volatility, as we've discussed, increased for the second quarter in a row to 6.9%. And although that's an elevated number, this metric was actually lower than that of Bitcoin for the third quarter in a row, which is really remarkable when you consider the market cap difference. Exchange trading volume continued at a strong pace of 123 million per trading day. That is down about 20% from the previous quarter's record trading volume of 155, but that also remains up about 820% year over year. Next slide. Activity on the network remained robust despite the price reduction. Active addresses hit a new record, and the number of transactions were essentially flat, down a fraction of a percent. Total payment volume fell about 31% during the quarter. Now, when you take those three metrics together, it's apparent that our average transaction sizes are declining, and the mix is shifting towards an increasing number of low-value transactions. And the implications for me there is that is a good sign that Dash is beginning to see more usage as a payment method. Average network hash rate, that continued to climb as well, exceeding 2 petahashes for the first time. Our network congestion remained quite low as we benefited from the rollout of 2 megabit blocks during the fourth quarter of 2017. That decline from third quarter of 2017 to fourth quarter of 2017 was primarily due to an increase in capacity and despite the fact that we were expanding during that period. On the social media metrics, we hit fresh records as well, though at a slower pace of growth than the feverish rate that we saw in Q4. Looking at some of the key metrics graphically helps illustrate this dramatic growth of our network that we experienced in Q4. And you can also see kind of the return to the trend line that we experienced this quarter. We've already seen a return to growth, by the way, with a clear uptrend in transactions that is currently underway in Q2. As you have already heard from the team, the Dash Network and the Dash Core Group continue to make significant progress against our strategy and are executing better. So if you turn to the next slide, I'll just walk through a summary of kind of where I see things right now. Our increased capacity in business development is beginning to yield a wider bandwidth pipeline of opportunities. Just having a lot more resources there to engage in conversations and build that pipeline, establish those relationships, that's been extremely valuable. And so we're going to continue to invest in that area as we add team members in Latin America and other regions, as Bradley discussed earlier. More importantly, we're doing a better job of measuring the potential impacts of our investments and being more deliberate about segments we can pursue with the highest probability of success. I'd say in the past, with business development, we've been very opportunistic in the sense that, when potential partners approached us, we were very good about, following up and helping them get onboarded and so on. And that mix is shifting more and more towards what are the targets that we're going to go after? How does that fit in with our overall strategy, and being much more deliberate about how we're using those resources. I'm also particularly excited about the improved effectiveness of our development team. The deployment of agile development methods is beginning to yield results already at this very early stage. And it's better aligning not just the development teams, but it's creating a better alignment across other functions as well. We're only partway through that deployment, but we're really seeing those benefits come through already. With the rebranding effort finally behind us, we can at last focus on execution of our marketing plan. And I know Fernando doesn't like to brag, but I'll do it for him, because the metrics we're seeing from Dash Core Group's initial marketing campaign with Ogilvy and Matt are showing really strong results, and stronger than we've seen with other campaigns that the network has funded. So we're really excited to share the learnings from that campaign later in the quarter, so that the network can benefit from those that testing and research that we've done in terms of what can be most effective. I'm also excited about the transition of a substantial number of contractors that we're finally able to onboard as employees. And as discussed last quarter, many of our investors and community members have long expressed concern over our low average pay rates and lack of basic benefits for contributors to Dash Core Group. And this is a huge step in the right direction to provide stability of resources the network needs as an ongoing entity in order to best serve the network. So closing the gap to fair compensation and benefits ensures that our most critical resources filling permanent positions will result in a more stable workforce over the long term. On the legal front, we continue to push into new territory that I'm happy to reveal a little bit more about to you today. As we discussed on the last call, we've turned our attention towards creating a wholly separate entity through which the network can make investments in equity, assets, debt, or other investment vehicles with the capability to distribute gains back to the masternode and strengthen our network. This entity will create entirely new ways to invest in the growth of our ecosystem while generating new diversified streams of income that will further strengthen the network and make it more resilient and stable. Creating this structure for a new legal entity is entirely new legal territory. and it will take considerable time. But we've assembled a team of 3 different legal firms that are working together on a solution. They've made rapid progress, and we think we have a legal structure that'll work. And we're testing our hypothesis right now, actually. We've identified the jurisdictions that are most favorable to the structure that we envision, and are currently ensuring the research is correct through the engagement of local experts that operate in those jurisdictions. So we put a lot of constraints on the lawyers, but we wanted to make sure that we adhered to the values that makes the Dash community strong. First, the structure will enable any type of investment and maximum flexibility. This could range from investments in support of the Dash ecosystem, which are not primarily motivated by profit, all the way through to pure investments in virtually any asset, whether or not associated with Dash. Second, the gains will be able to be reinvested or distributed to the masternodes, which would create a new income stream that will stabilize and provide lift to the value of Dash. Again, we want to ensure maximum flexibility. The result is that, unlike fiat currencies, Dash will be backed by something. Third, these legal entities need to be owned and controlled by the network. This was a huge constraint that we put on the law firms. And so we're establishing another innovative ownership structure to sit alongside that owns Dash Core Group, Inc., to ensure that that's the case. And lastly, we feel strongly that the masternodes should not be required to volunteer their identity, even privately, to be eligible to participate in distributions. That is another major constraint that we put on this process, and we believe that we have a solution in place. So we're planning to call the entity Dash Ventures, the structure of which will be repeatable. In other words, anyone who wishes to provide investment services to the network can stand up a similar legal entity, establish a charter, and compete with the other firms for investment allocations from the network. Proposal owners that wish to provide the network with equity or repay a loan provided by the network would contract with any of these legal entities and issue those securities to them. This is another huge differentiator for the Dash network and should enable investment in proposals for which grant fundings makes little sense to pursue because of high risks or high costs associated with the request. This should enable proposal owners with high capital requirements to offer something in return to the network. And so I think this opens up new territory for the network to logically invest in a new range of proposals. We will see how it evolves, but it should be a valuable addition to the network's capabilities. There's much more work to do, but we are pursuing that solution as quickly as the law firms can conduct primary research on the options, and we can validate that research. So we hope to have an update for the community soon. On the communication front, we're also more focused on communicating our progress via more frequent engagement. We're doing that through monthly reports to the community, demo videos from our developers, the release of our Dash improvement proposals. I think 3 of them were released over the last couple of weeks. And also blog posts from our many technologists that are covering a range of topics. The provisional patents have allowed us to be much more transparent with the community on that development front. And we hope the community has noticed the improvements, and we certainly welcome any feedback you have on what's working and what's not. I'd also like to talk about Dash's prospects in the context of the broader market for a moment. The high pricing we saw on Bitcoin's transactions in Q4 subsided during the first quarter as the number of transactions dropped on their network throughout the quarter. and it hit a low near the end of Q2. However, that inactivity is rebounding incredibly fast this quarter. For now, prices on the Bitcoin network do remain relatively low, but as blocks are beginning to become increasingly full, transaction fees are starting to creep up. And I would watch this metric really closely because Dash is one of the networks that I believe disproportionately benefits from congestion on the Bitcoin network. As Bitcoin blocks approach their capacity, we could begin recapturing market share rather quickly as we kind of capture overflow. While the urgency of Bitcoin congestion issue has definitely subsided for now in the eyes of businesses, they do continue to be concerned. And they're concerned on multiple fronts. The high fees is certainly one of them, but also unpredictable transaction times and blockchain forks. Transaction times can start to spike up even when the network is not fully congested. Kind of when you hit that 70 to 80% mark, there's frequently transactions that are held over by a few blocks, and transaction times can start to creep up. So they continue, to ask better questions about our scalability, the mechanics of instant send, and how that can help them, our governance in regards to their concerns over blockchain forks, and there's a genuine willingness and interest in learning what our network has to offer. So the attention executives are now belatedly paying to these topics is really allowing us to differentiate ourselves in a very crowded field. And our payments-focused approach is clearly resonating with a variety of different business leaders. So this quarter will be exciting for the Dash network. Last month, both Alt36 and Kuva Cash obtained licenses to operate as money businesses in their respective jurisdictions, which will allow both projects to move forward with their planned commercial launches. Alt36 received a money transmitter license specifically in Arizona and is pursuing licenses in a number of other US states in parallel. So I congratulate both Kuva Cash and Alt36 on their accomplishments there. These long-term projects are addressing significant pain points in the existing financial systems, and so I'm excited to see both projects launch commercially in the near future now that they have the green light from regulators. And as I look out towards the remainder of this year, I see a number of catalysts for transaction growth and a strategy that's becoming much more refined and effective for Dash. I'm also increasingly optimistic about our ability to execute. The entire team is putting in a lot of long hours and passion into Dash. We've added some incredible talent to the team over the last 6 months, and I'm really grateful to be working alongside a team of great professionals and incredibly hardworking people. So my sincere thanks to everyone in the community and the team that's helped Dash succeed, and looking forward to the next quarterly call. And at this point, this concludes the prepared portion of the call, and we'd now like to begin the question and answer session. I'll turn it back over to Robert for process information, and then we'll start following the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Ryan. So we have splitted our Q&A session into 4 major parts or topics: community and communication, technology, product and roadmap, and legal parts. Let's start from community and communication. The first question is, when is the date of the next demo? What will be the frequency of these demos in the future?
Maybe Nathan can take that one.
Yeah, I'll take this one. We don't have specific dates lined up in the future. If we have a solid enough amount of work, something that's a significant update to the previous, that's when we decide to schedule a demo. So that it's not, we don't want to guarantee that there's going to be a specific demo every second Tuesday or anything like that. It's just as the need arises.
Thank you, Nathan. Mm-hmm. Another question, do we have a date on when the official logo change will be made? I think it's to Fernando.
Yes, that should happen sometime late next week or the other one. The designers are finishing the style guide, and until it's not finished, we don't release anything. We'll publish both the assets, all formats of the logo and sizes and all that, and the style guide. We'll use that to rebrand our own site and products in the next few weeks, but there is no final date. Until it's completely finished, we won't publish so we don't increase confusion, but next 7 to 10 days.
Thanks. And the last question from this part, shouldn't Dash core group executives like Fernando, Ryan, Robert, etc. give their opinion on proposals that are of massive value and importance? Ryan, maybe you will take this.
Yeah, I think that Dash Core Group certainly occupies a unique position in the Dash ecosystem. We have taken a very hands-off approach to the proposals that are going up to the network. We do believe in the values of decentralization, and if we start behaving in a way in which our endorsement is required in order for a good idea to move forward, I think we're kind of extending beyond our own mandate from the network. At the end of the day, the network has decided that our work is valuable and that it should be funded, and so we will continue that work. That said, I think that in rare circumstances, we could make our opinion known to the network on a specific proposal, and that instances in which I feel that's appropriate is one, when it is integral to our strategy and we need that particular service or particular integration or something in order to pursue a broader set of initiatives. This could be the case with, say, a business-to-business type of entity that is a dependency for other integrations that we have in the works. We might make that publicly known and let the community know that this is of incredible importance. The other situation where it might be appropriate is when a proposal directly contradicts something that we're attempting to do and might disrupt that effort. In that case, we might make the community aware of the conflict of interest or the disruption that might cause to our own activities. We would do those things in the spirit of providing the community with information and arming them with the information they need to better make a decision, as opposed to telling them what they need to do. And so we are trying to, I think, take a little bit more of a hands-off approach. Also, I think we can do a better job of articulating our own vision and how the community can support that vision. What are the countries we're going to be targeting so that we can start to provide better support to complementary efforts in those countries? What are the industries that we're targeting? And that information, as we finalize our research in the business development area, will be published to the community. That's not a specific endorsement of any one project, but it would provide, I think, some guidance as to what we're going to pursue and what type of community efforts would complement that. So I think that that it's a delicate balance that we're trying to meet here. And to me, it's about arming the community with information when we have something to add, rather than instilling our will on the community.
Thanks, Ryan. Another two sections, technology and product and roadmap, are probably mostly addressed to Nathan. However, please feel free to share your opinions as well. So first question from technology. What are the scaling plans for block size and time?
Yeah, several things. Currently, as you know, we have 2 megabyte blocks, and those aren't even full. We also have Dash Labs working on hardware solutions for extremely large blocks, 400 megabyte blocks years in the future. And as kind of a bridge in between those, we also have an R&D project that's going to be ongoing this summer to be able to decrease block size. Well, not necessarily block size, but block propagation times. And so that should make it a lot faster. But I'd like to emphasize that this is all premature optimization at this point. We definitely want to be ready for, we want to have the ability to scale when the need arises. But at this point, we're not anywhere near even having that need.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Is it possible to make a smart contract with DApp tools on Evolution platform? If not, what's the difference between a smart contract and contract on the Dash network?
Good question. Technically, no. The answer is no. It's not possible to make a smart contract. As I understand it, a smart contract would be similar to Ethereum, where compute is involved in this smart contract. We don't have smart contracts, we have data contracts. And what a data contract is basically it's a set defined schema. So it's a pattern, and data has to kind of match that pattern, and the elements have to match up. And so the difference is that we're not offering a compute platform, and there's all kinds of problems with that, as we've seen on the Ethereum platform. It's easy to, well, maybe not easy, but it's possible to take advantage of those, and we really want to focus on Dash being a payments platform first and foremost. So the data contracts are, it's called JSON schema, and we have a defined version, and the data that goes into Dash Drive, which is the application data that Ryan referred to earlier, will need to be aligned with the schema, and those are pretty flexible. Users are able to register their own schemas with the Evolution platform once it's released.
Thanks, Nathan. That's really exciting and opens a lot of opportunities on the platform. Next question. After Evolution release, will a person's contact list be visible to others, whether through viewing their profile or blockchain analysis or other methods? Is there a limit to the amount of contacts a user can have?
Okay, that's a lot of questions. Will a person's contacts list be visible to others? Yes, it will. Because of how blockchain users are registered on the blockchain, it's possible there are technical solutions to that, but right now for MVP, we're trying to focus on just making the payment system work. Through blockchain analysis, that should not be possible, because we're not the extended, the public keys for that user's wallet should not ever be anywhere public. That's going to be private to the wallets the entire time. So there should be no way of viewing this through blockchain analysis. Is there a limit to the amount of contacts a user can have? I guess there's a theoretical limit. All the contacts, you know, every time you add a contact, that's another piece of data, and that data has to be stored somewhere. And so the data is stored in Dash Drive, but of course that's incentivized with a nominal fee, and so that fee comes from the subscription transaction, which is on the Dash blockchain. So is there a limit? Well, it's limited by how much Dash someone's willing to spend for that, and I guess the hardware storage capabilities of the masternodes. And of course, masternodes are incentivized, so if there's a need for more storage, they're going to get bigger disks and store more data.
Mm-hmm. And last question from this part. What is average Dash transaction fee? How does that fee change with the amount being transacted?
Well, I'll take this one. The median transaction fee right now is about 1/10 of a US cent. So it's very low. The mean is a bit higher. It's a few cents on a typical day, but remains quite low. The fee changes not with the amount being sent, obviously, but based on the number of inputs and how much the user is willing to pay for that transaction. Instant send transactions are per input currently, so it is a nominal fee, and it's, by the way, among the lowest in the industry.
Great, thanks, Ryan. And let's switch to the legal section. What about personal data on evolution? Can it be erased in accordance with European privacy law GDPR?
So the data that goes into the blockchain is an identifier. That's a username. Whether that's considered personal data, I'm not certain. And so, but once it's on the blockchain, it's on the blockchain. And once people have downloaded the blockchain, even if someone asks for it to be pruned, I'm not sure how that happens. As far as personal data, yes, and we have plans for that to be able to be erased. Yeah, there's ways to. We're still working through technological solutions to that, but we do have plans, and they involve masternode, what we're calling maintenance quorums.
Nice, thank you. What is Dash doing to comply with anti-money laundering laws in terms with encrypted transactions like private send?
Yeah, on this one, I think the precedent that's been set here is that operators of Bitcoin nodes, operators of Dash nodes, are not expected to comply with anti-money laundering laws because of the decentralized nature of the network. No one person controls it, so no one person can be held responsible for enforcing those laws. Even Dash core group could not enforce those laws if we wanted to, given the nature of the technology. So up until now, regulators have focused on the access points to these networks where people are using financial services to convert back and forth into fiat. And so that is where their enforcement efforts are focused, and we think that's appropriate given the constraints on the technology itself. So Dash core group is not responsible for addressing those issues. The businesses that interface with the network are responsible for enforcing those issues.
Mhm. And the last question is somehow related to the previous one. Do you think that the regulatory environment is becoming a significant obstacle to Dash because of private send?
I can take that one as well. We have seen instances, most recently the FSA came out with a statement that they were putting pressure on exchanges to remove privacy-centric coins. Now, we aren't seeing that reaction widespread. It so far is isolated to a couple of incidences. We have gotten inquiries from a couple of services that deal with Dash, a broker and an exchange that wanted to better understand some of our features, etc. And we're very easily able to address those when we communicate with the businesses or have the ability to engage with the regulator. I think at this stage, this is more about educating and demonstrating that Dash is legally very similar to Bitcoin. You can conduct the same type of transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. Really what Dash has brought is ease of use to conduct those types of CoinJoin transactions that essentially private send is built on. So I think we need to do a better job of engaging and communicating with regulators, particularly those that are viewing us in the same bucket as some of the more privacy-centric coins. As we've reiterated many, many times, privacy is one feature of Dash, but it is not the only feature. And it is, we are not making all decisions centered around whether or not it improves privacy. We're trying to balance that with usability. And so I don't think at this point it is a significant obstacle. I think we should be wary of it, and I think we need to proactively reach out to regulators. We're discussing how best to react to the FSA requests, and we'll be public about what we're going to do about it when we have a plan in place. I'll just reiterate, I think that privacy is important. There are a lot of good reasons why honest people need to have their privacy protected. Our solution, we think, places us much closer from a legal standpoint to Bitcoin than any of the other privacy-focused coins out there. And that when regulators understand that, I think that they will view us very differently from those other projects.
That was a great answer. Thank you very much, Ryan. And I think that's all what we have prepared for today. I would like to thank you very much for all of the speakers for sharing their input and information with the community. Thank you all of the participants of the call. And I think we can wrap it up. Thank you very much.